Hey there guys, it's PC Guy here with the news in tech and gaming for the past week. As expected, the highlights of this past week go mostly for the Ryzen 3000 and Navi launch that is going to happen next week. Some more leaks have come out, some leaked benchmarks that might or might not be real, some that do look real, and for the first story of the day, the pricing of what they will actually cost at retail price. As the Guru 3D website has pointed out, a Portuguese webshop, globaldata.pt, has listed the Ryzen 3000 series already for sale, or for pre-ordering in this case, and then you can have a bit of an idea how much they'll cost at retail, because obviously the recommended price from AMD does not always match up with the retail price, because obviously retail takes a cut. So these are the prices, as you can see here, of how much those parts are expected to cost. Mind you, this is a Portuguese web shop, and I'm Portuguese myself, so I don't shop at Portuguese web shops anymore since I moved to the Netherlands. But I remember that it's a bit more pricey there than it is here, for example. So this is going to vary a bit by country, obviously, and you can always expect the prices to lower a little bit. We've seen this in past AMD launches that they launch slightly above MSRP, as is the case here, and they will end up dropping a bit to MSRP levels or below. So you can expect these prices to come out a bit over a few months. However, it's still not crazy expensive. As you can see, if you are going for the high-end part, the 3900X, which as a recommended price for 499, it will be costing about 548 euros, which in dollars, well, it's slightly more in dollars, maybe close to the 600-ish dollars. But in any case, it is not an insane difference, and for European prices, mind you, this is pretty reasonable considering it's the flagship model. The 3800X would be at the 438 mark compared to the $400 MSRP, and as you go down the line, the difference between MSRP and actual price will become smaller. In any case, like I said, these are supposed to come out next week. The prices should be dropping as well a bit over the next few weeks, although perhaps not very quickly and not immediately in the first month or two. While the prices do seem perhaps a bit steep for those who were expecting them to be a lot cheaper than their Intel counterparts, I should add that these CPUs do come with a reasonably capable cooler included, unlike the Intel counterparts that come with no cooler at all, and then you still have to buy the cooler on top, as well as the fact that all these processors are already overclocked. You don't need to go and buy a K series. These are all overclockable by default, for example. If you do want to overclock them heavily, obviously you will need a better cooling than the stock one, which, while capable, is not enthusiast level cooling. In any case, for most of us that are going to be mild overclocking on that, or no overclocking at all in some cases perhaps, the stock cooler should be more than enough, and that's also something that you need to factor when you're considering the price. Next up, I would like to correct something I said last week. I said there was perhaps a X590 chipset in the works that would be a bit more premium and would come out later. Turns out that was a mistake. It has been clarified by AMD and by the board manufacturers. The X590 denomination, it stems from the fact that while in development, the X570 platforms actually had two different, let's say, product lineups. The X590 that was reported was the version with PCIe Gen 4, and there was an X570 that would be the version with still PCIe Gen 3. As development went on, they decided to include PCIe Gen 4 by default, so basically the X570 became the X590 became the actual X570 that we will see on the stores, and this supposedly higher end is something that is just a matter of denomination, and it was a bit of a confusion because the name just got dug out and people went wild with their imagination. So apologies for that. I report on that too soon, and obviously I don't have sources. A channel of this size does not have sources in the tech industry to talk to be honest. So I could not cross-reference the facts and make sure they were accurate, so apologies for that. A number of benchmarks has also surfaced. They are focused mostly on the 3900X and 3700X. It is a bit unclear in some cases what memory they were coupled with, and the memory does have a big influence on how good Ryzen performs. In any case, it has been showing these processors going head-to-head with Intel on single thread, with Intel being just very slightly ahead in single thread performance if you compare part per part, with the AMD processors completely crushing them on what goes for multi-threaded performance. So that's something that was already known. We're just getting a bit more numbers about that. It's still not clear how these benchmarks were made and all of that sort of thing, because the let's say the reviewers that usually do reviews, independent reviews on these parts, they are still under an NDA. They are not allowed to talk about their findings. They have already, I do know that they have already the parts in their possession and they're already testing them, at least some of them. So it is already an ongoing process, but whatever results we'll find, if you want complete detailed methodology and how it works and all that sort of that stuff and what was used and what conditions, you will have to wait until near 7th of July when the NDA will lift and they will be free to publish their findings. Speaking of memory, AMD has pretty much had their say in what they think the sweet spot for memory is. There are a few caveats whether type of memory you use, quad dual channel or 2 sticks or 4 sticks. There's a few details, but in any case, as a general overhead, what they do advise is 3600 megahertz CL16 is the sweet spot for Ryzen 3000 series performance. That's what I would recommend for anyone going for a build like this anyway. There is a cutoff point at around 37, 33 megahertz. It has to do with how the Infinity Fabric works in relation to the memory speed. And if you go above that value, you start getting diminishing returns, so it's not really worth it anymore. So the 3600 CL16 is the sweet spot for the memory speed that you should use with your Ryzen CPU. Obviously, you can use higher or lesser speeds and latencies, although that will affect performance. By how much, it will have to be tested. I'm sure there'll be benchmarks done on that, and we'll have to wait and see for around July the 7th when the reviews will start appearing. Still not on the topic of AMD, WCCF Tech has reported that some my graphics cards from AMD have been leaked, namely the Radeon RX 5950, 5900, 5850, and 5800. These are supposedly superior cards to the RX 570 and 570 XT that will, well, 5700, 5700 XT, I meant to say, that we are going to be getting also on July the 7th. They are not announced. There is no details, no benchmarks, no anything. This supposed leak is based on the fact that an add-in partner, well, like ASUS, AVGA, Sapphire in this case, has registered a bunch of trademarks for these names. Now they could be just covering their tracks for future launches. They could be having contact with AMD about the boards that are the GPUs that will be coming in the future already. It is not very clear. So the names have been trademarked, so that leads you to think that there might be cards with this name in the future. However, it could not be the case. So we'll have to wait and see for some actual information on this. But if you are in the wait for a good graphics card and don't want RTX and think that this Navi is not good enough for your needs, this could be something. However, don't expect it in just a couple of months or anything. It might be a matter of next year or something of the sort, which would line up with the rumors of Navi 20 series that we have heard for a while now. WCC Tech has also reported on the NVIDIA RTX 20 Super lineup. The prices have been leaking out. We already have been hearing so far that, for example, ASUS has up to 40 or more different cards coming out with all the different lineups, the TUC, all the different ROG and all that sort of stuff that will be coming out. They have up to 30 different SKUs coming out. But now we have some pricing from the NVIDIA baseline cards. And it is actually surprising that they are going to be coming out at a lower price than the Founders Editions cards came out back then. And these are superior cards as well. As a comparison, as you can see here in the article, they mentioned that the RTX 2080 Super will come out for a price of $699 US. That is €100, $100 less than the RTX Founders Edition back in the day. Same story for the 2070, $499 US, which is also $100 lower. The 60 is going to be coming out at $399, which is only $50 lower. And again, it's a lower end part, so you can't expect as much of a difference as with the higher end cards. This conflicts a bit with other news leaked also by WCCF Tech that the EVGA cards also had their prices leaked, and that the 2060 would be costing around $499, so $500, and the 2070 about $600, which is a lot more expensive than the prices that we saw on their other article. So it could be a matter of one of the leaks being wrong. It could be the matter of Nvidia just cutting their margins and charging less for their reference cards, while the board partners then have to charge a bit more for all their more advanced coolers and all that sort of thing. So it could be that. It could be a matter of these cards from EVGA that were used as an example having possibly some factory overclocking included and being charged more for that, better cooling, other features. It's something that we'll have to see. In any case, when the cards actually launch, we'll have a better picture and a better idea of what they can achieve and what the difference is between each brand and the pricing logics behind it. A bit on the gaming side of things, Google Stadia. I've had my comments about that on several other videos in the past, but a few more news have surfaced. More specifically, the worrying news that the games will probably not be cheaper on Stadia than they are if you buy them to play on your own device. This is it takes even more use out of Stadia because now, well, sure, you don't have to have your own device, but you don't own the game. Uh, if Google Stadia is discontinued, you lose everything. And if you don't even pay cheaper price for the games, then it's a bit, yeah, okay, what's the point then? Google has a history of discontinuing services that are not wildly successful. There's always the worries about Google collecting data, which you will probably be worrying about the data they collect on you through this service and your habits and your things that they can advertise to you all the time and all that sort of thing. Like I said, you don't own the game, you're just renting the license, so you own nothing if you're streaming it through Stadia. The only thing you own is the right to play it on their platform and nowhere else. And it's just not what most people were expecting and hoping for. The model of like people have been calling it Netflix for games, where you just pay the subscription and you can play all the games there. Maybe there would be a few, you know, AAA games that would be depending on you paying a bit extra because they're new and they're the highest of high ends and that sort of thing. But in any case, even if the subscription were to go up to compensate for them adopting that model, I think it would be received with a lot more enthusiasm than it has been. As it is right now, people were anticipating it and were hopeful for it, but it's looking like it won't be something that I can advise to anyone at all, to be quite honest, because you're better off saving a bit more, getting your own gaming device, and then you actually have something that you own, other than just basically renting it off them and losing everything when if there is an issue with the service. A bit more of gaming news: Diablo 4 has been shown internally at Blizzard. It has leaked out. This was not an official announcement. It's a leak from an employee or something of the sort. It might be shown at BlizzCon this year, but don't expect the launch to be this year, and who knows if even next year. But in any case, this is just further confirmation that Diablo 4 is in the works. After all the whole rockets with Diablo Immortal, people were a bit disheartened, so it's nice to know that it is in the works and that it is playable because it has been shown internally, and it should be shown in BlizzCon, which should happen in a few months. So we'll have to stay tuned and see some news for it then. We also do know that Overwatch 2 is in the works. It is not known if it will be shown already or not. It's supposed to be more of a PvE style slash story focused MMO, shooter. So it's a bit unlike the first Overwatch, and it could either be an addition to the first as a sort of an expansion or a standalone game that also still remains to be seen, and there has been no word on that. Blizzard has also mentioned the whole situation. A few years back, them canceling a future MMO that they had in the plans, codenamed Titan. People were kind of hopeful for it. There was a lot of rumors, and eventually it is discontinued. And the resources and assets were used to produce Overwatch as we know it today. A bit more information has been given out on that. Apparently, the game was becoming too complicated for the game engine that they were using, and it would take too long and too many resources to get the game engine up to part where they wanted it to be. So in the end, the whole project was scraped. It was going to be an MMO. It was not going to be World of Warcraft related, but it was being going to be, let's say, the successor of World of Warcraft as far as gaming style, gaming genre is. That's what they were aiming for that to be their new masterpiece MMO. Sadly, it did not come out as we would have hoped. Sadly, World of Warcraft is also a bit of a controversy at this point because a lot of people are not happy with the direction the game is taking. Other people are happy, and you can see how the opinions clash. So it's a bit of a controversy. And speaking of World of Warcraft, the latest patch 8.2, Rise of Ashara, is live. There is some more stuff to do now, which is good because I have to admit the game was a bit stale before this patch. There was not a whole lot to do, so I'm happy that there's new activities and new things to pursue in the game. Have not played a lot, I might add, because I just have not had the time. I might play a bit over the weekend, but in any case, I will be looking forward to exploring the new content a little bit, and I might make or not make a video or two depending on how interesting I find it. These have been the most important topics of the week. There are a few more bits and pieces that I figured were not worth mentioning. I'll just do a quick shout out for the Intel announcing their new integrated scaling technology that should help mostly with upscaling and downscaling content while retaining good image quality, and that could help a lot in, let's say, image quality in gaming or professional settings such as video editing, movie making, all that sort of thing. How it remains to be seen. It's not implemented yet anywhere. It might come with their future graphics card, so we'll have to wait on that. So just a quick mention of that. In any case, those have been the high points of the week. Let me know if there's anything else anything of these topics that you would like to see explored in further detail, because I'm always open for content ideas, and I would love it if you guys would tell me, hey, why don't you do a video about this or about that, talking about this or that. That's something that I'm completely open to do, and I'm always open for your guys' suggestions to what you would like to see covered in the channel. In any case, I hope you enjoyed the video and well, the rest of the content in the channel so far. Hit the like and subscribe button if you do. If you don't, keep checking. Maybe you'll have something that you'll like later on. And this has been Addict PC Guy, and I'll see you next week.